So let me go ahead and get started here. We're going to kind of rock and roll and get moving because I'm so excited to introduce you to Mike G, to have you just experience a little snippet of the immense knowledge this guy has, and also really to share what he has actually done for me personally. And I'm going to get into that in just a moment. So as you guys know, actually I'm going to put it up here on the screen. Our topic today is let's talk about injury prevention and recovery. Okay, injury prevention and recovery. I really felt that we have so much that we can share with our audiences right now, and Mike has so much knowledge in this area. And I'm going to sort of start this by sharing why I'm introducing you and what the path has been and how we've known Mike. So let me take this off the screen. We go way back. Actually, Mike and my husband, Lucho, have known each other for, I think, close to, 20 years?
Yeah, 20 years.
20 years. And they met at one of your previous employers where you used to work and where you really learned, I'm thinking, or at least Lucho learned about this whole modality of the human form and correction.
Yeah.
And, you guys have been fast friends ever since. We used to live really close to each other. Our doggies were best buddies and used to hang out. We've really kept this connection for quite a long time. And to the fact we're now, we're working together. We're doing some really great projects together. And then through all of this going on about, what was it, maybe 3 months ago? I'm guessing it was about 3 months ago. I did one of my famous, weird movements and literally threw my back out, literally had a complete spasm across my lower back while I was at the gym. Now, I want to preface this, you guys, and Mike knows this story, but I'd already been working out for about an hour and a half. I had done my warm up. I had been lifting. I did some core work. So my core was already engaged. And then I decided, I'm going to go jump into this glute class that they have. It's just 30 minutes of glutes. And I'm not doing a glute class for 10 minutes. I'm in there and I moved weird and the spasm just shot through my back and I was literally paralyzed. I literally had to get onto my knees and sort of crawl out of the class and try not to be noticed. And I got my husband and I'm in a lot of pain and we've got to go home. So I kind of did what I shouldn't have done, right, Mike? Yeah. And instead of calling Mike, right, my incredible resource, I thought, I'm going to go get a deep tissue massage, which is probably the worst thing in the world I could have done. And my poor massage therapist felt terrible because I literally walked out of the massage in worse shape than when I went in. And then I got home and Luke was like, let's call Mike. So I called Mike and he's like, why didn't you call me before? But he immediately gave me a series of 3 movements to do. I did them immediately and they started to help release a little bit. And in the meantime, he built a further program for me. So I don't want to drag the story out any longer other than the fact that he created an amazing, what you call your program. And it's a series of movements and exercises that I did. And I did this every single day, sometimes twice a day, right? Initially, I was doing it twice a day, and it slowly released out my back. I didn't use any pain medication. I didn't go to a chiropractor. I didn't do any of that. And I do these exercises now every day, every morning. And my back is stronger than it's ever been and no spasms, nothing. So that's my long story to introduce Mike. Now I want to let you guys all know a little bit about Mike. Okay, if you don't know who he is, you certainly will. So let me just tell you a little bit about his background. He is a speaker, an author, he's a thought leader, and he's also the founder of ProFit Solutions and ACM 360 Pro, which you guys are going to hear about. His passion for helping others is fueled by his own success with many injuries that he's recovered from. His approach towards injury prevention and recovery focuses on addressing limiting physical capabilities that contribute to pain and injury. Mike maximizes results through correcting the most underlying movement pattern and postural dysfunctions. His mission is to ensure that others have the awareness, the knowledge and the resources that he's discovered for achieving extraordinary results. So you guys, let's all give a big hands up, woo woo, for Mike G. Welcome into the house.
Thanks, Lisza. Great introduction.
All right. Cool. So let's start off with this. Why don't you tell everyone really how you got, what started this, what got you intrigued and interested in this field?
All right. Well, my background is in sports medicine, physical therapy. So a big part of my early career was spent working with injured athletes. At least we were trained in the recognition, prevention, and recovery of injuries. And so through that process, we worked in physical therapy. And during this whole time of working with athletes in that setting, I started noticing a lot of gaps, a lot of areas that we just weren't addressing. And there were things about it that intuitively, or maybe in hindsight, I really didn't understand at the time, but I knew it wasn't right. And it led me down a different path of really discovering some new things. And it was really fueled by my own personal problems I was having. I've had 5 knee surgeries now. 2 of those were before I was even 18. So my journey in this pain prevention and chronic pain journey of mine started when I was 10 years old. And it led me to probably get into this career that I found. And it was really selfish for that sense, because I needed to fix myself. I was an athlete my entire life, and I wasn't, I was stuck with the traditional medical model. And I was led to believe that the surgeries were what were fixing me, because every time I had a surgery, I was better and I could go play again. But I kept getting pain. And long story, by the time I was 25, working in physical therapy, I was living on ibuprofen and had tremendous knee pain. I was doing the exercises I give my patients. I could squat over 400 pounds. I was deadlifting over 500. I was extremely strong. And yeah, I still had this knee pain. And at that point, the doctor said, look, Mike, there's nothing we can do. You have arthritis, which we knew. They told me at 10 years old I had arthritis in my knee. At 18 that I wasn't going to walk when I was 25 because of this. And at the time when I was in working in physical therapy, the doctor said, I can't help you. Surgery isn't going to help. You need a knee replacement, and you're too young. You're going to have to deal with it until you're old enough. And that was the red light that went off. I mean, not to mention a lot of other aspects of what we were doing with patient care that just didn't make sense. And I just knew that I could either listen to what they all told me and go down that path of believing that I couldn't fix myself and live a life that was sedentary and just wait until I had to get the knee replacement, which most people do, or discover something new, or see if there was something else. And that's what led me on this journey. And I'll tell you, that was a turning point really in my athleticism and everything, because I really started unlocking what the body was supposed to do. And the further I got down this path, the more I realized that there were big gaps that I was fixing myself. And I've had a couple other knee surgeries from crashes and racing mountain bikes and motocross, but as early as 4 years ago, they wanted to replace my knees. And I said, no, I'm doing fine. I don't really have a lot of pain. But the doctor was basing that decision on the MRI and x-rays that he was looking at. And when he showed me, and when they show patients these images, it's scary. But I knew that I was doing pretty good. And I actually was training for a half marathon at the time. And I've completed 3 of them now in the last 2 years, which I'm still running, lifting, exercising. I'll never fix the internal damage, but I don't really have pain. And it leads me to really believe that there's a different approach as long as we're willing to accept the responsibility to do it for ourselves. And that's really what led me to this whole design of ProFit and ACM. And the message to get out to people was, if you're willing to take on that responsibility, there's a lot you can do. And if I have a broken bone, I want to go see the right doctor. But when it comes to mechanical problems, it's the wrong person to see, because all they know how to do is surgery. And so that's really the greatest message I really want to achieve in teaching people is there's something more, and you have to be able to be willing to look at that for yourself.
Absolutely. And I do want to share with you, so I'm getting some feedback all of a sudden. He's been such a huge proponent of your programs and what they can do for people. But he also made a comment in here. I did want to share it with you because I'm not sure you can see it. He said, not only that, since I've been doing your programs, my gait has improved. My hips are no longer rotated when I walk. Whereas before I would lead with my right hip and the left hip sort of lagged behind, and now they're even. So you guys, this is important stuff. And this, like, honestly, when Mike sees you in person, he just like looks at you and can pick this stuff out. And you've taught Lucho to do the same thing. And now it's completely shifted my entire body and how I stand and how I walk and everything. So
right, exactly.
Real stuff. And this is things that I've been, Mike's taught me and showed me to do that I can do myself. So again, what you've developed is really, really amazing. So let's roll into that. And can you share with everyone what the ACM system is?
Yeah. So Lise, going back, especially what you just mentioned, Lucho embraced this philosophy and really wanted to learn more. And postural problems aren't hard to identify. In fact, we were all together in Las Vegas a few months ago, and Lucho grabbed me. He's like, "Hey, check this out." And we were watching someone walk in front of us, and he picked out exactly what I would be looking at. And what I've learned is, in order to influence change or influence someone's behavior to change, we need two things. One of those is you have to believe that it's possible. And second is it's got to be worth it to you. Right. And these were some of the big gaps that I learned in sports medicine and physical therapy. Although we were there to help people, we never really embraced the fact that people could get better. We never taught them that they could get better. We created dependency on products, right, braces, orthotics, other things, and patients are led to believe that when they see these poor MRIs and X-rays that they can't get better. That's what I was taught. I learned this in college. And I believe that you're not going to fix cartilage damage. It's bone on bone. You got to get a knee replacement. And so if I didn't believe that I could get better, it's a waste of time. But there was something in me that just knew there were things wrong with me that weren't being addressed. And until I exhausted those efforts, I wouldn't be happy knowing that I've exhausted those efforts. So the second part of that is knowing it's worth it. And to me, it was worth it. I did not want to live a sedentary life. I wanted to be active. I had big aspirations in my athletic endeavors. So that was my motivation, but I didn't know what to do. All I knew is I had to find another reason and had to kind of question the status quo as to what we learned in medicine. And this is where the problem is. Most patients are taught to believe that they are broken and they can't get better. So ACM is really a philosophy in a sense of establishing. And I always tell people this: don't trust me, trust what the assessment tells you. And we have a simple ACM is basically an assessment program to look at dysfunctional movement. Posture is an end result of what we do all day, which is move, either move well or don't move well. And poor posture leads us to the conditions that we typically see: wearing away of joints, muscle spasms, whatever it is. But correcting posture sounds great, but we don't understand why posture has gotten bad. And that's what ACM is. It goes down a layer deeper to movement patterns. And so this is what dawned on me in my early 20s, my late 20s, was I was never able to touch my toes. It was a joke in school. And I remember kids picking on me about it because I was 11 inches from the ground, the ability to touch. I could not bend. And I was taught to believe that it was genetic. So all of a sudden I was taught to believe that I can't fix it. And so I never tried. I stretched, it never got better. My hamstrings were the primary mover in my running and lifting, and they're assisted in those movements, but they're not the primaries. But I could tell you every time I finished that stuff, my hamstrings would be the primary worker. And long story is I realized that, gosh, I feel like I should be able to touch my toes. I don't know why I can't. And I started believing that it was genetic. And if I only believed that genetics was a play in that, then there's the first part of that influencing behavior. It's not going to get better. So I said, there's got to be more. And that was really what unlocked it all for me. I kept digging deeper and found that a new approach to not necessarily stretching, but improving that pattern of movement. Now, for the last 20 years, I've been able to touch my toes, and it's the reason why I can run now. It's once I've unlocked my hips and I've got my body to work the way it was intended, my knees really don't bother me. I'll never fix the damage inside my knees. But listen, if it's not hurting, I'm not worried about it. But I can tell you though, when my knees do hurt, I always test my toe touch pattern. And if it's not where I want it to be, I will focus on that, then go run. And that's been really the what's unlocked everything for me. And I said, so ACM is really about helping people determine where their biggest problem is. I'm not the one telling you. It's the assessment that tells you. We just know what joints are supposed to do. If you can't do that, then let's fix that. At least it gives you something to focus on other than pain. If all I focused on was my knee pain, I'd have never been here. And I focused on my movement patterns and knew from the early age, from the lifting I did and the posture that I lifted in, that my body was getting tight. I was really strong, but I couldn't move. And I said, there's a problem here. There's an underlying fundamental condition. The body needs to move well, and I wasn't. And I at first I chalked it up to genetics, but then once I realized it wasn't a genetic problem, it was a posture movement pattern problem, I was able to unlock that. And so ACM is really aimed at helping people achieve that mindset where they believe they can fix themselves. Why you want to do it is up to you, and that's what we discover during our question and answer sessions with people is, why is this important? Because if I can tell you, I can give you as many exercises as I want. I'm training people now to learn the ACM system, and it's one of the big components to what we do is we have to make people understand that it's possible to heal, and they have to have a reason why. And if we don't have those first, then nothing's possible. So ACM is really a platform for us to deliver this philosophy from and give people something to focus on other than their pain and or even performance improvements, because we're talking about improving people's performance as well. And if we, like you aren't really struggling or in chronic pain, but you're looking at improving your performance. You go into the gym and do these exercises that, and in my opinion, many trainers and people are essentially exercise enthusiasts. They see some examples of exercises and they incorporate in these programs without really a strong understanding of what to look for. And when I watch people doing these glute programs that you did, that's a great exercises. There's a lot of great exercises out there. It's having an understanding of what to look for with a dysfunction, because your body will always find the path of least resistance.
Right.
And if you don't move well from one spot, you'll find another way and compromise a part that's not intended for that and end up with pain. And trainers have a tremendous, I learned so much from trainers watching these different exercises. I've learned more in this last year getting involved more in the fitness industry. I was like, where did that exercise come from? But I also break it down to the biomechanics of it and look at how it can be effective or why it's ineffective, and knowing exactly what you did in your booty class, why your back started hurting. And that's why it was really simple to give you exercises to correct that problem and address those things.
Well, and I actually also saw you do something really interesting live. So I had the opportunity to see Mike speak at a big event. And during that event, you brought up two guys up on stage.
Oh, yeah.
You did a process with the two guys using your patterns, your programs. And it was amazing to see the difference. And again, when Mike talks about, being able to touch his toes, we're not talking about like he stretches every single day, so now he can touch his toes. It's not about the stretching. It's about, as you said, it's the movement pattern. And he did this process, you'll be able to explain it better than me, with the two guys where they were like a good, 15 inches. One of the guys was 15 inches from the ground at least. And then with a few of your movement patterns, and then boom, he touched the ground. He touches.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. And it's one of those where maybe you didn't mention the fact that I started sweating a little bit because I bring them up there at the beginning of my talk. And if it doesn't work, what is everyone going to think? But yeah, we brought these two kids up on stage, and one guy was pretty athletic. But neither one could touch their toes. One kid was literally probably 15 inches from the ground. And it's an example that, and this is what I was getting at, most people can identify poor posture. Lucho's great at look at this, look at that, right? Most people know where they're tight. And if you have tight hamstrings or piriformis syndrome or sciatica, there's all these great exercises, stretches, foam roll to stretch tight muscles. And what I really encourage people to do is take it one step further and ask yourself, why are those muscles tight? Because if we just stretch a tight muscle, we stretch a tight muscle. That's what I did. I knew my hamstrings were tight. I knew my glutes were tight, but I was just stretching tight muscles. When I got done doing it, it felt a little bit looser, but the next day I was just as tight. Until I really started looking at why those muscles got tight and addressed the underlying condition, which is usually a weakness somewhere else, that's what unlocked my body. So when I get these people up on stage, that one kid, we didn't do any stretching. We lay him on the floor and we have him do some leg raises. And I'm not stretching him at all. This kid was sweating. We did 5 repetitions, remember, on both sides with his legs. It's like a scissor lift kick. And 5 repetitions, dripping sweat. And he got up and he was probably, a couple inches from the floor, and people went nuts. And the point was, we weren't doing any stretching. We were focusing on the weakness of his body, not the stretching part of it. And that's really what the emphasis of ACM is. The foundation is looking at the body differently, taking those questions and asking yourself why. And the answer is usually found in a weakness somewhere else that we are addressing.
So that's a perfect segue, because my next question for you is why, whoops, hold on one second here. I wanted to put it, there we go. Why did you develop the ACM system?
Well, yeah, the biggest reason why was after I'd gone through what I did and the process of 28 years of being told and learning in college, gross anatomy, sports medicine, that we knew what the injuries are to the body. We knew the recovery processes. We knew all this stuff, but these were the things we were teaching our patients as well. And I said, I just wasn't satisfied with that. And I said, if I ever find an answer, it's going to be, I feel that I was put here as a servant to people. I really feel good when I serve and help people achieve something in their life. And there's nothing more rewarding when you called me that day crying.
I did.
You were crying on the phone. And it's just so rewarding, and to get a smile from someone and then feel better. And so I knew that was my life's purpose. And I said, I've got to fulfill this somehow. And with the success I've had, I'm never going to fix the damage in my knees, but I can function pretty well. And I was really aimed at, I said, if I found something that worked for me, I was going to share it. And that was really the emphasis of this, was sharing it with the world. And that's one of my favorite quotes. Your life's purpose is finding your passion. Giving it to others is really what gives life meaning. And I really truly believe that. And I feel like this ACM system is my delivery tool to the world to say, hey, listen, there's a better way. And now that we've got some students learning the process, it's developing that philosophy where they're teaching others that same principle and giving people hope, because that's really what we didn't do. We created dependency in the healthcare system with opiate drugs, the rise of chronic pain, the rise of obesity. We're creating dependencies. And our approach in fitness, even in 20 years ago, we used to talk about that body image and what we were promoting to the general public as fitness. And if it was the right message, we wouldn't have a rise in obesity, a rise in diabetes, a rise in chronic pain, a rise in opiate drug epidemic. So our message is wrong. And that's why this ACM system is my platform to really deliver that message of a new paradigm that we're trying to change people's perspective on what they can do to help themselves. Does that make sense?
Absolutely makes sense.
And so this is what my passion is, and that's why I developed the ACM system, because I needed that platform to work from. And I knew through the 20 years of developing this and working with many, many clients on the process that I had the right solution. It was just a matter of getting it now to the public and starting that process of getting students to learn it and developing that entire philosophy around it. It's more than just a movement pattern system. It's the way that we deliver it and what we're looking to achieve.
Absolutely. And that's where we've really teamed up, because we knew you had so much to offer, right? Like you have so much to share with the world and people to work with, that that's been our, our bright spot, is being able to help you deliver this.
Well, the great point is, Lise, and to this point is, Lucho, when people get injured, and my goal, and I understand this, I do a lot of research in the sports medicine and physical therapy world, and we know the statistics out there. The 9 out of 10 people are going to suffer back injury in their lifetime. So it's almost naive to say that we should prevent back injuries. Mm-hmm. What we need to do is learn another process to help ourselves. When someone gets injured, regardless of their history, some people have been injured. They're like myself, my whole life, and injuries are still scary. I just have a confidence I've built to know how to get out of this. And I had a pretty significant injury 5 years ago that was really scary, but I'll share that later. But the point was, Lucho, you guys didn't panic. You were a little panicked, but Lucho said, hey, look, call Mike. Because not because you're dependent on me, but he knew that he was going to be able to give you something to work on, and now you have a confidence that you've built in yourself to be able to fix yourself or help yourself. And that's really the goal. Instead of saying, well, I need a massage, I need a back brace, I need something to help me, and I've got to be dependent on that. My chiropractor's gone, what am I going to do? Those are the things that everyone is there to help, and there's a reason for everyone, but we really want to establish the foundation where people can help themselves and a platform to work from.
And it is so empowering. I mean, I have to tell you, like, literally, I know, I mean, we just moved, you guys. I mean, we just moved. So you're talking lifting boxes and moving boxes and doing all this stuff that are outside of our normal routine. I wasn't working out regularly. You know, we're lifting and doing all these things. And I literally, like, every morning we were doing our mic exercises, or we call them our mic exercises, but the ACM program. And just knowing that I'm protecting my back, I'm being safe. Like I have so much more awareness now on what's going on there. But just like you said, I don't have to be at the mercy of having to get to a doctor. I don't have to be dependent on, you know, pain pills on this. And quite frankly, my back is getting stronger and stronger and stronger. But I love that's my routine. I have it down now. And again, it's incredibly empowering to know that I can do my set of routines and not, you know, I just went back to one of the classes, and I don't always do classes because I usually lift, but I occasionally throw in a class. And I was really careful with it though, but I was really clear, and I had done my routine first and went in there really prepared. So it's very empowering. And I just want to really relay that information to people, whether you're an end user or whether you're looking at offering this for your clients. Like, you know, Mike has some amazing programs where you can provide and learn, you know, your system, your program, and then, you know, use this to work with your clients. So maybe you can share a little bit about that. In fact, I think you have one of your clients on here right now, one of your students.
Yeah, Kevin just joined up. Kevin's worked with me for many years, and I work with corporations and helping their injured employers, or at least helping them prevent getting injured. And yeah, the majority of employees come to me with aches, pains, and injuries, and I set them on this path of learning how to help themselves to take care of themselves. Yeah, the ACM system, I said last year, I've got this great tool, and I get asked all the time for help, but I have no way of delivering it. And so that's what I spent the year working on, was developing this program, the certification program, to teach people how to perform this movement pattern assessment and how to deliver the right corrective exercise for that problem. I always think of the chiropractors, and I think of the physical therapists, and I think of the strength and conditioning coaches and the personal trainers, and there's a lot of great resources out there. And if we start at a foundation, then the exercises that we do should influence that new pattern of movement. So I'm not saying that what I have to offer, the corrective exercise approach, is the only thing, but it's well proven for 20 years of these corrective exercises. I'm very confident in giving them to people to say, this is what's going to help this. If you have another approach, use it, but have a way to test that system or what you're doing. And this is where functional training, one of the biggest reasons why I said this was time to do this now, was because in physical therapy, sports medicine, we did functional training all the time. And we understood functional training. We understood what the goal of it was. And then about 1999, 2000, CrossFit was the first emergence of functional training into the fitness industry. And it hit like a hurricane. Everyone flocked to CrossFit because it was this new thing. And I always equate it to the Rocky workout, right? Rocky wasn't in the gym, Rocky IV. I'm a huge Rocky fan. Yeah. Rocky IV wasn't in the gym. He was lifting carts and climbing up mountains while the Russian was on those sophisticated machines. But functional training was new. It was outside the scope of what the gyms offered, and people flocked to it. The CrossFit blew up, and also people started getting hurt, and it started getting this bad name. And one of my biggest struggles was, I said, oh, great, functional training has made it to the mainstream fitness industry. It's becoming part of the culture. And I was excited about that because that's what people need in the gym. But when I started understanding what was happening, people started just posting some videos of best core exercises. The core does nothing to do with it if you don't understand what the core is, and if you have movement pattern limitations ahead of that. So just doing core exercises doesn't do anything unless you're focusing on the right condition. But the emergence of this of the functional training, and then watching what functional training was starting to evolve to in the fitness industry, made me realize that we needed to do something. I needed to step forward and develop what the foundation was. You've got to have a place to start. People that come to you in the personal training field industry are they're coming to you with injuries, pain, and it may not be debilitating, it may not be chronic pain, but many of them are. The healthcare industry with insurance reimbursement and whatnot, people are being discharged from physical therapy much sooner than they should. You have an ACL patient, ACL recovery is 6 months, have 8 visits. What are you getting done in those 8 visits? So we need trained professionals that can bridge that gap from the physical therapist to the personal trainer. And that's what ACM is. It's that system that bridges the gap, that gives trainers that solid knowledge and foundation to really understand how to help their clients, not necessarily lose weight. That stuff will come if you've built the foundation correctly. And so that's why ACM I call it the fundamental movement assessment. You've got to have the fundamentals in place, and that's what it does. Then go ahead and do your higher level threshold exercises and all this great stuff. But if you're not doing it under the constraints of the way the body's designed, you're going to hurt somebody. And these people that are coming into you already have aches and pains. The number one predictor of an injury is a previous injury. And so if someone, and they may not have pain still, but that dysfunction is manifesting somewhere, and it's going to come out in their training. They're going to get hurt, and now you created a bad name for yourself. So the ACM was really that's what this program was to give people the depth of knowledge that they need to understand how to look at functional training from a little different perspective. Go ahead and do your functional training moves and all that great stuff, but make sure that you understand what you're doing them for, and you have a way to test that it's having an impact. Just like I do. Every time every morning I touch my toes, because that's the foundation to how I'm going to move through the day. If my hips are tight, I know I have to do some work on that. I won't go for a run or I won't go to the gym if I can't touch my toes. And the funny thing is, at the gym, a lot of my friends will joke with me. They say, why do you always touch your toes during, people will go do some stretching for their arms or whatever. I'm touching my toes because I want to ensure that when I'm doing my workouts, whatever body part I'm doing, that it's not having a negative influence on my movement pattern. If it is, then I do some other exercises before that. But it's my way of testing my patterns to make sure my hips are the foundation working correctly. Make sense? Absolutely. So ACM is right now we have the program set up as a certification program to teach people this foundation, and it also offers them the corrective exercises to correct those dysfunctions and really help their clients achieve those results that they want down the road.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about the programs that you have and the certification. Well, let's share a little bit. About what you have.
Yeah, I have we call it the Certified Exercise Therapy Specialist. It's a Certified Exercise Therapy Specialist 1 course. We're building the 2nd course to that now, which is going to be a little bit more in-depth on the corrective exercises and how to develop your own corrective exercises. We have a 460 plus library of corrective exercises. And like I said, if foam rolling works for somebody, then it's a corrective exercise. But if you don't have a way of testing it, we don't know. So right now we have the Certified Exercise Therapy Specialist course online. And what it does is it teaches you how to perform a movement pattern assessment effectively. And it's a 6 movement pattern assessment. It's very simple from a concept standpoint of looking at it and saying, wow, it's only 6 movement patterns, but the depth of understanding why you're doing those patterns and how they relate to each other is what the certification program is. Having that knowledge, and that's really what the gap is. Taking a fitness enthusiast who looks great, who can get results for somebody, but really giving them that depth of knowledge to understand. That's what this focus of this certification program is. Included with that, though, we have the corrective exercises. So when you identify those dysfunctions, you'll know the process and approach to take to help that person. They may have many dysfunctions, but you've got to have a system in place to understand how to help them systematically. So we have the corrective exercise programs included with that. And I just finished I think it was, 15, 20 page book, ebook on functional training or corrective exercise. And it's really an in-depth view into corrective exercise and the principles of corrective exercise. And it gives people a really good insight to how to develop their mindset around corrective exercise. And so when I'm at the gym doing my exercises, people ask me all the time, why are you doing that? Is that more isolation for your shoulder? It has nothing to do. In fact, it causes my whole body to have to work harder. It's training the weakest link. So the book, the corrective exercise ebook that we put on the course is a big in-depth approach to corrective exercise, giving people that mindset. So that's our corrective exercise program, the certification program. And we also spent this year building a software package that augments this. So a trainer could literally do an assessment on someone within 3 or 4 minutes, get the results, and those results are automatically sent to your client with the corrective approach to start fixing those problems. So you can spend your time most effectively with the programs that you want to do with them, but that client now has a corrective approach to be working on as their homework or their pre-workout. If you have someone that you're doing stretches for to warm them up, then we already know that stretching is ineffective. It helps you warm you up, that's great, but let's do the most effective thing for that client. And that's what this whole program was. So the software augments that, and anyone that signs up as a certified exercise therapy specialist certification gets 30 days free on that software to try it, which is pretty neat.
I had to share it because does say that the big difference is that ACM not only identifies a dysfunction, it teaches you how to correct it. This is what really sets you apart, right? Because there's so many out here that talk about, help you identify them, but now what do you do? And your content is so value packed. I mean, there's so much knowledge that you share in there.
Yeah, before I decided to invest in building this program, I went out and looked at what everyone else is doing. And there are certification programs related to functional training. And I asked the personal trainers about this, what do you do for assessments? They said, well, we do different assessments for each person, which I don't understand that process. But the biggest one is the overhead squat, where they put their arms overhead and they squat down. And any of us can identify a poor squat. The knees buckle in, they twist, but it doesn't tell us why. And when I asked the trainer why, they say, well, I don't know. And I said, what do you do to fix it? You have them squat more, you have them squat without weight, you're not fixing it. And so I knew that after I looked at what was available to trainers, to the physical therapists, chiropractors, I knew that this program I developed not only identifies the fundamental movement patterns, but the corrective approach is so simple to implement that's what really differentiates us from anyone else out there. And then the next level of certification that we're building is going to teach people how to really look at someone like Lucho does with me all the time, and then understand what you have to fix. Yeah. It's really that process becomes more experience in doing it.
Yeah. Honestly, I just have to I didn't share this before, but you guys, like, when my injury happened, my body, and Mike saw this on the camera, I was literally like crooked. Like my hips were here and my upper body was like over here. And as Lucho shared earlier, I literally am completely aligned now. And I just feel so much, it feels better, but you can see the difference. Like it's really measurable. It's very measurable.
Yeah, Lisa's smiling now. She wasn't smiling when we talked that day.
No,
she was crying. And that's why, I'm a very empathetic person, and I don't like seeing people in pain. And that was what drove me so hard. Was I have this thing I tell people about how this all started one night, and I got to a point with listening to story after story after story of people in pain and what they suffered from, and the opiate addictions, and what 94% of people that go to a doctor for back pain leave with pills.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And what is that teaching us as a society? It's that quick fix and that self-responsibility. So and then I started seeing people that had unnecessary surgeries. In fact, I worked with an employee today. His daughter worked with me a year ago, and I found out today, I didn't realize this at the time, but the doctor wanted to do surgery on her hip, 13 years old. Nothing was wrong with her, but when we did the assessment program, we found a big problem. We corrected it that day, well, not necessarily the day, but that week she spent doing it. She hasn't had hip pain since, and they wanted to do a freaking surgery on her.
Yeah.
And I said, that was the stuff that started driving me so crazy that people just, we want to trust our doctors, and we need to for certain things. But and I always use this analogy, if you have an electrical problem in your house, you don't call a plumber.
Right.
And the majority of these aches, pains, chronic injuries, things that we see are a mechanical problem. If you're not fixing the mechanics, then you're not fixing the problem. And the traditional medicine model, and even in the fitness industry, we focus on parts. I want to do my chest. I have a shoulder injury. And sports medicine, when I worked in sports medicine, we knew everything there was about every joint injury, and we focused our I call it that sniper scope. We focused in on that area, and we worked on that. But we didn't take the rest of the body into account. And that's really the paradigm I'm trying to shift, is people to understand that as you're doing a chest exercise, you're also using a lot of other muscles, or you could be using a lot of other muscles to incorporate into the strengthening of your body instead of parts. And you can still get big parts by incorporating other parts of your body, not isolating. And the premise of it is you've got to look at the body as a whole, not as a part. And with healthcare, injury prevention, recovery, and performance, you've got to improve performance for the whole body, not parts.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So here comes the $1 million question. So for you, Mike. So how can they learn more? Where can they go to learn more about what it is that you have here?
Well, we've got the ACM website. It's www.acm360pro.com. I think Lisa just posted that up on there. And on that website, we've got a lot of great information. I've got a couple of cool videos that explain the program, but also in the details of what this movement pattern assessment is. And then we have the certification page that shows the different options that we have for certification levels, as well as the bonus materials that we're including. And so I would start at ACM 360 Pro, and I really entertain questions from anyone. We have a way to set up a 15-minute call with me to go over those thoughts and questions.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you guys, so not only will we be here, if you guys want us to post some questions on here, feel free to post some questions. We can do some live, but I'm also going to post this link. So hopefully it'll come up here.
Oh, so Lucho just posted a comment here. They stick a 5-pound plate under their heels, problem fixed. So that it's a great example. When we're exercising, putting a plate under your heels when you're squatting makes it easier for some people, and that's adding a compensation to your lifting. So it doesn't mimic what you can do in the real world, because you can't always have a 5-pound plate around with you. When I tested that girl who was supposed to have hip surgery because her hip was having problems, she had been in physical therapy for 3 months. She had been doing all these exercises for her hips because it looked like she had very weak hips. When I put her heels on a board to squat, her knees never buckled, and she squatted all the way down and she had no pain. So we can continue using a plate under her heels to help her, but that's not helping her. It's creating a compensation and a dependency. What we did was we understood that it was an ankle problem, not a hip problem, from that example. So people that have to use a plate under their heels for squatting, they usually have a dysfunction somewhere that has to be corrected. You don't want to create a compensation for it, just like wearing arch supports in your foot. If you have a foot problem, wear arch supports is supposed to fix it, but now you can never take them out because now you have to wear arch supports to compensate for it. So thanks for that comment, Lucho.
Yeah, absolutely. So I put up here, you guys, Mike has so kindly, generously offered up his time to talk with you privately. So if you're not comfortable with posting your question here, or if you're coming here not live, not watching it live, so you can copy this link. It's calendly.com/ACM360Pro/15 minutes. And we actually do have a great question here. So Stephanie said, wrong one, sorry.
Yeah, Stephanie, about sciatic.
How effective is it in the sciatic type pain?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I mentioned it earlier, the hamstring tightness. Hi, Steph. Thanks for the question, by the way. Sciatica is essentially, they call it sciatic syndrome, which where the piriformis muscles, the deep external rotators of the hip, become very tight around the piriformis muscle, or the sciatic nerve, causing pain through the glute and the hamstring. Sciatic pain can also generate from a back condition as well. So the majority of people, though, when you look up sciatic pain exercises, they show this leg cross stretching exercise, and a lot of people get relief that way, but sciatica returns. And it's because, again, like I said, the sciatic nerve is pinched between the piriformis muscle. And so if the piriformis muscle is tight, stretch it. But if we don't understand why that piriformis got tight, then we're always going to result in a problem or something greater. And so absolutely, this stuff is exactly what we're looking for. I never go after pain. Sciatica is one part of the body. We look at your sciatic pain could be a result of ankle mobility restrictions, hip mobility restrictions, and your body's finding another way to compensate for a lack of movement or strength in the body. If we just stretch a tight muscle, then we're just going to have a loose muscle. But it doesn't tell the body why that muscle got tight, and it doesn't address the compensated conditions in the body. So someone who has sciatica could have an ankle mobility restriction, a hip mobility restriction, the thoracic mobility restriction, or they could just have very ineffective stability components, and we can stretch tight muscles all day, but that muscle is working hard for a reason. If you don't address that reason why, then that's where we get in a lot of trouble. Great question, Steph. Thanks.
So so Doug says, you're spot on with all your info. Being in the training industry, your focus and knowledge is key to improving client performance. How long does it generally take to complete the certification?
Oh, great. Well, we're accredited through the NASM, National Academy of Sports Medicine, and AFAA. And with that accreditation, our continuing education units are worth 12 hours. There's 8 booklets. There's a anatomy portion, there's a introduction and protocol booklet, and then there's 6 movement pattern booklets. Each one of those has a component in the exam, 114 question exam. So I've had a few people that first signed up with me initially, and we went through this in a couple days. They were just on it. I've had some people that are getting certified now that have taken their time, but you should be able to read through the material. And if you want to just get the certification and get that credential, you could do it within 12 hours. That's the contact hours we have there. But yeah, within a couple of days, a good week of focusing on that. To be competent with it, you want to spend some time in learning this more, and that's what the system really is about.
Yeah, and it's he has a ton of content in there, you guys. I mean, the knowledge in these books, it's worth thousands, believe me. I mean, what he's put into this and what the years of experience that he brings into it. And I mean, I've had the privilege of being able to work with all of the components as we develop the system, and it's spectacular, really.
Yeah,
Let me show this. So Lucho says, before you put anyone on an exercise program, resistance, cardiovascular, endurance, etc., you must first run them through the ACM 360 Pro assessment. You guys, the assessment will change your business just in this component alone, right?
This was the point. I'm not trying to replace what trainers are doing, physical therapists are doing, chiropractors are doing. All I'm giving them is something to assess the foundation. Know what you have, do whatever you want, or our corrective program, and then come back and retest. This is why I told you, I do my own assessment, is touching my toes. It's my biggest dysfunction. And if I can't, I know I have to fix it before I do anything. And I spend that time because that's where my body performs the best. I'm going to get a better run, a better workout when my body's working the way it's intended. Yeah. And this goes into the details of the corrective exercise booklet I wrote and into the certification program. Why is it so important to move well? Most of us just take it for granted. And I guarantee you, majority of people on the street, if you ask them, most of them can't touch their toes and they don't know why it's important, but they have back pain, they have ankle pain, they have knee pain.
Yeah, and again, I want to go back really quick to when you were sharing about your knee surgeries and really the foundation of why this was all developed. So do you want to elaborate a little bit more on what that process was on going through those knee surgeries and how that affected your...
Yeah, when I was 10 years old, I was sent to the doctor for the first time with knee pain. And the doctor told me it wasn't just, it wasn't growing pains. It was specific knee pain. And the doctor said, well, you bruised your cartilage, do this one little exercise. And it was a quad stretch or quad strength. They really didn't know what was wrong. Fast forward to 16, I had been lifting weights now from 12 years old to 16, and I was already pretty big. I did my first bodybuilding contest at 16, so I was lifting a lot. I was squatting. I was the leg guy in the gym, and I was squatting probably close to 300-400 pounds at that point, and I always had knee pain, but one day in gym class, I tore my meniscus, and then I had that removed and recovery. 18, I had my second knee surgery. I continued to lift. And that was when the doctor sat me down and said, Mike, he said, I've never seen a knee so destroyed as yours. You look like a 70-year-old man's knee. You're not going to walk when you're 25. But that was all he said. All he told me was to do, stop playing sports, stop lifting weights. No one knew what to do at that point, and I didn't either. That was what set me on this path. But I don't know if that answered your question, Lisa, but that was the knee problems got worse over the years because of the crashes I involved in motocross and mountain biking, and most of it was some scar tissue that was developing.
So you were pretty hard on your knees. Okay, come on.
No, I was very hard on them. Yeah, absolutely. The point is, I didn't give up though, and I'm not a tough guy at all. I don't want to be in pain, and I mentioned it earlier. I was involved in a motocross crash. I raced at a pretty high level, one level under pro, up to 5 years ago. And I woke up in a hospital one day, don't remember how I got there, found out that I had crashed, obviously, off a big jump. I broke my helmet in half. And so I had a pretty significant head injury, concussion. I had a significant neck injury, whiplash. And I also dislocated my pelvis. So if I could stand up, because I couldn't stand up, the room was spinning. But when I tried to walk, I couldn't put any weight on my leg because the whole pelvis felt like it was shifting. And then complicate that with a neck injury, I was pretty beat up. I couldn't do anything. But as I mentioned earlier, I've been doing this stuff for 20 years, helping myself recover from injuries, the many that I've had. And I just knew what I had to do. I laid on the floor almost the entire 3 weeks until the spinning went away. And then one day, the third weekend, I got so frustrated with the vertigo. I said, you know what? If I've got to do this one exercise. I had been doing some of the exercises on the floor to help my body recover in a good position. You can't speed up recovery. All you can do is slow it down, but you can help encourage the body in a better position. I got up out of bed. The room was still spinning. It was getting scary for me because I didn't know if this vertigo would go away. Next thing, I did an exercise, a specific exercise on the wall that I knew I needed to do. The vertigo cleared up that day, and then that was the point where I completely knew. Yeah, Kevin remembers that. I was completely. Oh, really? He was at work when he saw me that week. My vertigo went away that day. It was one of those things. I just knew I had the confidence to help myself. And I knew that if I did these exercises, at least I would exhaust my efforts on this. And the vertigo went away, and I just was able to now start walking, standing up, doing more exercise, the corrective approach. And I've never had neck reoccurrence. And I don't even remember that dislocation of the pelvis. It completely went, but I fixed my body from the very worst stages forward.
Okay, that is an amazing story.
And this is the confidence I want to give other people, to know they can help themselves. I believe that I can heal, and I have a reason for it. And those are the two things that motivate me to do it.
Absolutely. And you have to, because you have to. I do have a question here, so I want to make sure we can address this. So Terry, our good friend Terry, is joining us, and he said he has a question about hip replacement. He says, my left hip seems like I have bone on bone that seems to be what happens to people as they age. Very hard to walk because of that, and both knees are going too. I'm well past 70, but I believe he's so good. I believe he put big letters. You are awesome, Terry. He's the man.
Yeah. Terry, thanks for the question, and it's a great question because the ACM system is really about the prevention of these injuries. And what I like to tell people is the dysfunctions and the compensations are there long before the symptoms occur. Most of us don't realize that we haven't been able to move well, and this is one of the things I listen to a lot of people when they talk to me and explain their story. And the one thing that he says seems to be what happens to people as they age. That is a limiting belief. It shouldn't happen to us. If we're moving well and we're stabilizing well, we shouldn't expect to have these things happen to us. So we would address that. If you believe, then it's not an age problem. It's just that you've been doing something wrong for a long period of time and you've caused a lot of damage now. And that's where the next level of working in ACM is going to come in, to understand where pain plays a role. Because if someone has pain, we have to address those conditions first before we really get into big movement patterns and all this great stuff. But you know, Terry is someone that we can definitely work with. It would be a little more specific program towards his conditions, but we're not going to work on hip specifically. We're going to work on the dysfunctions that are present. But for the most people out there, this is what my goal is. Let's help people identify where the problems are before we're suffering in bilateral hip replacement potential, knee problems, all of those things. The signs are there long before the symptoms occur. And those signs are just an inability to move well, an inability to stabilize well. So for Terry's question, yeah, I've worked with people that have bone on bone in their hips. The hip is a tough one because it is where all the body's weight is born.
Oh, Mike, we just froze on us. Okay, Mike, are you there? Shoot, I think we just lost connection, or your internet connection is bad. All right. Oh man. All right, guys, hold on. Just bear with us just a moment here. Can someone type in the box? Can you type in the box that you can still see and hear me? Yeah, I think we just lost Mike real quick. So he'll come back on. If you could just type in there and let me know that you can still see me, that would be great. He'll be back on in a minute. Yes, he will. Thanks, Doug. Cool. Okay, so you guys can still see me. Let's see if he can get back in. Yes, wonderful. Thanks, Kevin. He's getting the good stuff. So while he's coming back on board, what I wanted to remind you guys is I did provide here his link to a 15-minute session with him. I really encourage you to reach out to Mike, talk with him. He can answer your specific questions. He can guide you. Please also take a moment to go to his the website. I'll put it up here again, www.acm360pro.com. And on that site, you can see there's actually a link there that says to the certifications. So when you go to the website, he's got some great information. As he mentioned, he has some fantastic videos right there on the page. So he has an article in there as well. So
hey, I'm back. Somehow I lost connection. Sorry about that, everyone.
That's okay. No worries. I'm pinch hitting here. So I'm telling them that they can get to the site. Again, you'll find there's a link at the top that says certifications. And perhaps you might, now that you're back, Mike, you might want to share a little something about the certifications.
Oh yeah, I'm really excited to announce this. You know, I spent a lot of time building this program and looked at what was available out there, and we're very confident with this program that we've developed. The certification program, the way when you look on the site, we have one listed at $997, which is our complete package, all the bonus materials, your 30-day free trial. But what we're doing now is offering this at a limited time offer at $797, a $200 discount. I talked a lot with Lisa about this, and I said I'm not going to devalue this program and the content, but I'm really excited to get people started on this and developing the team of people that I can start working with, delivering this message. So we said let's do a limited time, and we're not going to offer this price again, maybe years from now, but I'm not going to go back to a $797 price, $200 discount. But we're offering that now especially to this. This is kind of our kickoff to the launch of this whole program to the masses. And so you guys that are online that are interested, we're doing a $200 reduced rate, special price. And when you click on the link for the $997, it'll take you to that special limited offer page where you get all this information for that limited price. I'm really excited about that.
So I have some good news. Terry says, my hip feels better already now that you're back.
All right. See, yeah, that's good. That's my Mr. Miyagi.
That was great, Terry. Thank you. Awesome. See, he's back with us. So that is, again, you guys, I highly recommend you take a moment, go over there, look at all of his, his content is amazing. His information is amazing. You can tell just from watching and listening to Mike tonight how passionate he is about this, and really why I wanted to bring him to you. Like I've been waiting to introduce him. It's one thing, we've known each other for so long and we've worked together for so long, but then to have you actually, work your magic on me, I'm a believer. I'm a believer.
Yeah. It's exciting to help people, and it's nothing more rewarding than to see someone get better and know that they've established something for themselves to help themselves. That's really the focus.
Yeah.
Instead of being dependent and reliant on others.
Absolutely.
Terry asked how long this is going to be offered. We're literally, we decided that we're going to do just a month offering, and we were waiting till everything was ready until we did this live Facebook, and I think this is our month that we're going to do the live, the limited offer for. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing program, you guys. Honestly, I can't recommend it enough. I've been immensely involved with it. I'm so impressed. Lucho and I have been doing, our certification and our program for 15 years, and the quality that Mike has put into this is absolutely outstanding. So it's value packed. It's knowledge packed. The resources that you have and having access to Mike directly is worth the price in and of itself. So the program's there. And also, again, I posted the link if you just want to talk with Mike and schedule a 15-minute call with him. I'll put it up here one more time. And, please feel free to reach out to him. He'll be able to help guide you and answer questions for you. If you have, perhaps you have a client or someone who, maybe is having some challenges, maybe going through the certification might be right for you, maybe just learning about his problem, maybe just working with Mike directly, because he still does take private clients. I don't know how much longer that'll be.
Yeah, I still work with private clients. I do enjoy it. And again, to your point, Lisa, it may be a physical therapist or a chiropractor that that maybe shares this philosophy that just needs a tool for them, and they can get involved with that as well.
Absolutely. Well, we've gone a little long. I really appreciate all of you being here. Again, throw down on here. If you're here live still, pop in a number 1. Just type in a number 1. Let us know that you made it. And for those of you watching the replay, pop in a number 2. We love to know who's joining us. You guys have been fantastic. And let me end with this one. Kevin says, good stuff, everyone. Gotta go. Take care. Talk to you soon. Out.